Welcome everyone on today's Metal3 team meetup. Today is the 22nd of May, and this is the second meetup. And we will continue from the topic where we left off. So our last topic on the 15th was this CAPM3 and BMO and ironic documentation improvements. I think it's a big topic and it will evolve as we go forward. There are now a few ideas, but I don't think we have to spend more time on it. I will adjust that. I will make tickets about it. So I will create like a public issue tickets, and the same way as we had it in the past, those will be tagged as help wanted, and then people can join. It worked very well last time also, so we can just continue with that. And then the fresh topic is incorporating more ironic features. And the first one is this is an old issue, which we didn't have time to work on, but basically it's just a way to open up the functionality of the device hint operators in BMO a bit more. That this already an existing thing in BMO, but it's how to say, like, the options that we can select are hard coded, so you cannot just write any operator supported by ironic in your manifest, because BMO will use a certain number of predefined operators. So certain features are locked away. And then we had even back then some discussion about this, that this should be implemented in a way that is not necessarily ironic specific, because other provisioners might be used with BMO. So that's where we left off. And since then, this is just sitting there. It has been frozen, and wasn't like for some time we thought that we will need it downstream, but then we managed to do with what we already had there. I actually just wanted to mention this as an example for features that we can incorporate. And maybe my question is that is there some generic opposition to this, or this can be one of the planned way, like planned feature that we take into our public like project page and start working on this.
I don't have any objections, but what we need to think about is it's possibly going to be an API break and change if you change that. So if somebody here actually cares about root device hints evolution, this person should take a look at my design proposal about bare metal host API v1 beta 1, because that's our chance to incorporate potentially breaking changes with a reasonable compatibility layer there. I personally won't necessarily be able to drive this forward, but if somebody comes up with ideas of how it can be improved, I'll happily incorporate them into the design proposal.
A question. So when it comes to adding something in the beta API and not alpha, does it have to be in the same proposal, or can this be just independent once we have a beta API?
So I'm not strong in API versioning. I guess adding something is not a break and change. So maybe it depends. I need to check how Kubernetes versions its APIs, because for example, in Ironic, we increase the API version on any change, even completely backward compatible. If they do that in Kubernetes, it has to be V1 beta 2. If they do not, we can just do it afterwards. I'm more referring to any potentially breaking changes.
Yeah, I was just thinking that there could be quite a few of these type of issue or changes, and then do we need to incorporate all of them in one? That could be a good idea actually. So, yeah, thanks. That was a general question. And
Yeah. So yeah, the beta one is a good place to propose this also. The thing that we discussed before, that in general it would be good to only propose things here that we probably implement at least in the next year, but more like in the next 6-9 months. 6 to 9 months. I'm not sure because this is just a comment from me. That this is sliding down our priority scale. So almost everything is more important for us at the moment than this. But we never know when we have a customer that for some reason needs the disk selected in some weird way. So you never know. That's my problem, because then you need it quickly, and then you mentioned that this is potentially, and I also think that this is potentially a breaking change, because if we look at our discussion, even back then you mentioned, and I agree, that this cannot be just what I did originally, because originally this was, I think, what we did with Moshure. What we pushed was just basically we removed the default and then opened up. I think that was, yeah, like we removed the prefix for the operator, and then you could prefix it with anything, and it would go through. But then you mentioned that this won't fly because of the, like, because we have to support it, support multiple provisioners potentially. In any case, yeah, and in the API, these are, I think, very generic names. So even if we would add other options like greater than or smaller or some combination, like, then still I think these would need to change. I'm not sure. This really requires a proposal. I think we can go forward. This is undecided from my part, that will we work on this or not. But this would be a nice feature, but not that of a killer feature, not that important. Okay, the next one is something that we actually, is there any other comment to this root device int operator? I have not heard anyone else mentioning anything related to this. Okay, then the next one, this is something which is more important to support network data injection during the pre-provisioning image phase. So there are a few things that you have to know about this. So 1 second, I have to add a few things which was not added. That I have a Gleam fork that can handle this in IPA, even support different disk labels, and also VLAN and bonded interfaces. So we have a Glean, and that can that Glean as part of the simple init can be built into the image, the IPA image, to support the network data format and support it even on modern distros. That's the Glean is a whole different topic, but this is doable on the IPA and works pretty well after the Glean is fixed. But then to get it to the IPA, there are a lot of things that we have to implement. That was already in the past a discussion about the pre-provisioning network data field in the BMH, that could be reused or not reused, but get piggybacked in a way that if this points to a secret that has a network data field, then the BMO would patch this content of that field into the node, into the network data endpoint of a node. So the background to this is that I investigated this a lot, and downstream with a driver that actually is a custom driver, we managed to do it. So we actually have a workflow where we do it like this. But this, of course, requires a BMC driver in Ironic that can support reading the network data and then putting it into a config drive, or building it into the image, or just injecting it according to what sort of IPA image format you are using. There are, as you know, many ways: pre-built ISO, on-the-fly built ISO, PXC, booting, so many different ways. And this is, we did it like that. So we even managed to do it for pre-built ISO, and even in the open source, if I think with Ironic, if you just patch the endpoint and you use a dynamically built ISO, the network data will nicely land in the ISO, and you can use it.
Correct.
Yeah. But the question here is, like it's my dilemma that as far as I know, there are no BMC drivers that could use it for pre-built ISO currently. So that's one pain point. I will write it somewhere. So
this is true, yes. And the problem is that there are just too many formats of ISOs that can be used for that. For example, I can tell you that CoreOS ISOs are completely different beasts in this regard, and we're doing completely different things with them.
yeah,
so unpacking an ISO and packing it back is a bit of a crazy territory for us, which is not to say the community will necessarily reject that, but that's a conversation. If you want Ironic to do this, right? As you rightfully say, when you build, when Ironic builds an ISO from kernel and RAM disk, it will just nicely place your config drive there. Whether we want to Ironic to repack existing ISOs is a good question. We can raise that question in the Ironic community for sure. And we need to take into account that some pre-provisioning image handlers are doing it differently. Right, so let's be careful not to break CoreOS because it will be really upset, because Ironic won't be able to repack a CoreOS image.
Yeah, in downstream, we didn't go into the repacking direction, although experimented with that too, but no, we actually, like, the driver supported attaching the config drive as a second virtual media with a different label. But I know that then there comes in the discussion that not every BMC supports two virtual media disks attached at the same time. At least I heard that this can be a contentious issue, that some people would not support this if it's not supported on every hardware, or at least I understood it like that. But on hardware that supports two virtual media disks, it was doable.
What hardware was that, if it's not a secret?
It's like the exact number of the servers, I don't know, but these are very new Dell and HP servers that we were using, and it was Redfish, if I believe. Nice. Yeah, but you have to keep in mind, and I don't want to go into details, but we even have some middle layer that that helps with this, but at the end, I mean, software layer, some additional services in the data center. But at the end, what I can confirm is that there were two block device, virtual block device attached to the server, and the firmware was regular firmware available for everyone. So there was no magic in the BMC firmware.
That's great to know, because yeah, I've heard about Dell actually that they don't support that. So I guess you have updated the firmware. That's great to know.
Yeah, and even there is this mention of firmware update even in the Ironic docs, and we went with I think the latest firmware. There. So even in the tests we did some, or the guys who were actually had access to these test environments, they upgraded the Dell firmware. Yeah. Yep. So that's how we did it, and it would be nice to have at least the support for the pre-built. So I think, like, here the topic, like, goes into two directions. So there are two how to say topics here. One is that one which is the simpler one, just like this, is that not some image. This is the simpler one, and the harder. So these are the two things. And what is your opinion about reusing this field? This is the big question for me, because in our downstream tests we are not using this field to build EPAs on the fly, because if I know correctly, this is intended to be used when you build the EPA on the fly by the BMO, right? This pre-provisioning network data and other pre-provisioning.
Well, that's how we use that, at least. So we have a pre-provisioning image controller that actually modifies CoreOS images on fly to inject this stuff. But I do think if we implement what you suggest, we should reuse the field, because the sense of this field is the same. That's network data that is provided to the RAM disk. The way we implement that should not matter to the API surface. What we should try to figure out is a way to avoid doing this thing twice, in our case, in case of OpenShift. So maybe the pre-provisioning image controller has to signal somehow whether it was able to embed the network data or not. Like maybe some flag in the status, like network data embedded true, false. And then BMO can take a look at that. Okay, we have network data, but the controller returned network data embedded false, which means I have to ask Ironic to do this. Something like that. So probably if you want to pursue this path, it would be cool to write a design spec. We can polish the details and see what is required on the Ironic side as well.
Yeah, I think I will add it here. This will be most likely my test, because I was following this since end of last year, this whole story. And I have to write it. Using this. I probably have to discuss it with you more, this one, because in the BMO code I'm not that comfortable. Of course, I have to become comfortable with that, but we will see. Let's now there are quite a lot of things here. I will try to make this red and write like some results that we have discussed. This goes red, okay. And then the root device hint operators were so yes. Yeah, and then we discussed this, and there were no objections from anyone for using the field, and then you are adding some things. Yes, that I noticed that for regular like provisioning it's fine, but for pre-provisioning it's not.
Yeah, just making sure everything is written down that we discussed.
Yeah, thanks. Oh, that's what color to use other than red to highlight this, maybe like this. And this is also good to know for those who are not familiar with this. Okay, then the next topic is the basic out support in the IPA against the image server.
Yeah, I also put down a comment there. In my view, it shouldn't be all too hard to implement, but you need to add fields to Ironic instance info with these credentials, and they need to be respected by Ironic Python agent. So it's probably 2 simple patches to Ironic and to Ironic Python agents. Just has to be done by someone.
Okay. Yep, that's good. I think so. IPA. Simple. And I'm just wondering. Let's add this here. Is this there? Like possible variables. Okay. Do you see room from the Ironic community that somebody would be happy to implement this in coming 1 or 2 months, or if we want it in this quarter, then we should delegate someone?
I'm afraid the community is spread pretty thinly at this point. So yeah, we're not. If we could just make it an outreach task, that would be good. But the next outreach round is in winter, so it's not gonna fly. I'm afraid you need to find someone to work on this. And I'll be happy to guide whoever that person will be, but I'm also won't be able to write the code.
Okay, that's fine. That's already good enough information. Next one is the this was an idea because I'm not even sure that who was the first who proposed it, but recently we have seen that certain workload management, or how to say, cluster management solutions, and certain edge clustering solutions were introducing this notion that, and in some places this was used for a long time, that even disk images are supplied via container images. So basically either the parts of the disk image are in the container, including the kernel and other stuff, and then they are how to say, unpacked from the container and built into an image, or there is the full image inside the container, like an ISO or something, and then that is used. And I even theorized that because OCI supports a bunch of formats, not just the regular container, you can even have it as a simple tar file and then just pull it through OCI protocol or the protocols that are used to pull this. I'm not that familiar with the specification. I just read a few like documents about it, but in any ways, I think it would be possible to download the IPA from an OCI registry instead of a regular like HTTP server. And I think this is the way we should go, because for sure in any environment where containers are used, and we talk about Kubernetes, there will be a OCI registry somewhere available, but it might be a problem for the administrators to provide a separate server or some web server available for the Bootstrap cluster to get the IPA. So that was something that we were wondering, and this is actually not just I wrote down that for the IPA downloader, but also OCI support for the IPA image downloads. I think it would be more elegant if these both of these would support OCI and could just download images from there.
So I can tell you what we used to do before we switched to CoreOS. We essentially used to do something like what you described. So our OpenShift image downloader, when building the image, it was downloading the IPA image, and it became part of the container. So when a user put the container already contains the full image, and the actual download process in runtime was just copying files. So that's what we used to do. I'm not sure if that matches your idea.
Yeah, even that would match my idea. Like that's even simpler than what I had in mind, because I had in mind that you run the downloader and then the downloader downloads it. Maybe now I was coming from the direction that we already have the downloader, and I would not like to lose the support for the regular web server, but just add the support for OCI next to it, basically. But yeah, basically that downloading a container that has the full image in it, and then writing it to wherever we host it. You have an example here.
Yeah, I think it even supported several approaches to downloading things. So it could download in runtime. It could use pre-cached image that was installed via RPM.
Yeah, I'm just trying to make sense of all the things.
Yeah, it's also a fork of the upstream image downloader, so it may have things that don't apply to OpenShift. Probably it's better if you just, try to create a pull request from one to the other and see the diff. Maybe not right now, maybe later on.
Yeah. Yeah, but then we are almost completely on the same page. Like we would need something like, of course, we would not go the RPM route, but just OCI something. some format that is supported there. And yeah, then this is quite, would be a quite easy thing, I guess, then to push this through the community to modify the APA downloader to support the OCI, right? So that there we don't foresee, or you don't foresee any objection to that.
Yeah, not necessarily.
Oops, not this one.
Yeah, just for correctness, we used to do that. We now switch to CoreOS, so it's a bit different beast. But yeah, that's definitely what we had in production for many releases.
So you used to do this way, but now CoreOS, okay.
Actually, we now have a similar CoreOS downloader that works kind of the same way. So when continuous build, it downloads CoreOS from our internal service, and then it, when the cluster is installed, CoreOS is copied. So we still sort of doing this approach, but in different angle. Because we no longer have a separate APA image. We just start a CoreOS RAM disk and start APA as a container on it.
I see. And then so from for IPA, this is fine. And what is your opinion about the IPA itself and its downloading images? Because now we are in OpenStack world, and I'm not sure how well supported OCI stuff is in general in anywhere in Ironic or anywhere in OpenStack. I don't know if the community would have would dislike this idea if I would propose this as a story in the OpenStack storyboard.
Yeah, we got rid of storyboard. We were back to Launchpad, but yeah. So you mean downloading instance image, like QCOW image from OCI registry?
Yeah, node image.
Interesting. I haven't thought about that. I don't have an immediate negative reaction to that.
Because if
it's probably worth discussing.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, because if I think about it, and correct me if I'm wrong, if we would like go in this direction and would change the IPA downloader to support OCI, and then change this to support OCI, other than the PXE booting, would we? Okay, no, the PXE doesn't matter. We can download the image for the PXE booting also via. I'm just trying to remember how are we getting the node image into the HTTPD server when we are PXE booting.
Doesn't really matter, PXE or not PXE. The image flow is always the same. So we expect the user to have an HTTP server where the image is located. Then Ironic copies it into its internal cache, and then it serves it to Ironic Python agent.
Yeah.
Or serve directly. You can also serve this link directly, depending on settings.
Yeah. Yeah, it's all, if it's, yeah, I get what you're saying. Yeah, so if it's if we ask IPA to write it to the disk, because there are some ways, right? When you don't, when IPA is not writing, but you like some BMC can directly load it, or there are some different ways, right?
Not that Ironic supports that, no. I
No.
know there is some hardware, mostly like things like routers or switches that have remote flashing ability. We may start seeing that in Redfish, but so far we haven't touched this topic in Ironic.
Okay, so it's always the writing the image to the disk by IPA.
Yep.
Yep. So so that is one. So if IPA downloads it, loads the image from some external HTTP server, that process can be substituted by OCI, and only IPA would need to get some extra code. But if the Ironic downloads it, because if it's not from some random place, but from the HTTPD that is hosted by Ironic, then we would need to add some support in Ironic. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, Ironic will try to validate the link anyway, so it has to understand the schema and has to, even if IPA is doing the actual work of downloading and writing, Ironic has to understand what the link you provided, that's an OCI link, that's not just a file you can download simply. And maybe you will want to provide a pull secret, for example, some sort of credentials as well, if it's a private registry.
So in any case, both IPA and the Ironic would need some code and some new code that supports this.
Right, probably not a lot of code, but some.
Okay, that's good. I didn't know that in every case the Ironic has to validate that link type or address type. That's new info for me. That's good.
Yeah, if you think about it, it's better to validate the link before we start booting the server. Take 5 minutes to boot it, then take several minutes to boot IPA, and then discover that the link is simply not resolving.
Yeah, totally makes sense. Okay, good. Again, I will put here that if this is ESG, would need to have and to make a launchpad, was it right?
Yes, we're back to Launchpad. So another thing we could do as an outcome of this meeting is to have a list where our wish list for Ironic, let's put it this way, like things we would love to have in Ironic, maybe eventually if we have time, and then just show this list to the Ironic community in case somebody starts screaming.
Yeah, absolutely. I can continue. When we went through, I can just pick from this if it's fine, and just an even shorter list just by the just write down the names. I can do that if that's okay, if that's enough.
Yeah, we can copy it somewhere and then elaborate to make it readable for non-MetalCube people.
Oh, sure. Yeah, that's actually a good idea. Is there some place in the OpenStack community where you think people would have access, like a broad range of people would have access and could read it, and I can also paste there?
Yes, we use Etherpad.
Etherpad.
I'll link it to the document. Give me a second.
Okay, thanks. I will put this to the top. Hops. And wish list, and then I will take this one here, and then yeah, I will make it. I will make it and then post it there. That's not a big thing. Okay. That's good. And I think we have discussed everything about this OCI. It was at least for me, it was good to learn this validation logic. Is there any comments, questions from anyone else related to these topics? Mostly we discussed it together with Dimitri. Even if you have questions related to what any of this means, or if you are not familiar with it and want to learn, we have time, I think. If not, then I can continue. So these next things, if I understand, are coming from mostly Ironic community.
I think I wrote that down actually.
Okay.
So things that really interest me. Yeah, we have a firmware upgrade as a large priority, but before we jump to that, so it would be good to have multi-architecture support in Ironic image, because right now we have several problems. For example, we have this horrible thing called profile matching, which hardcodes x86-64 as an architecture. Like all profiles hardcode that and send that to Ironic. Ironic gets confused when it's actually ARM. It doesn't get confused too badly, so you can actually deploy ARM nodes with Ironic still, but If we're talking about multi-architecture, if we're talking, for example, as Ironic on Intel deploying both Intel and ARM nodes, well, that is not going to work the way it's configured in Ironic image. And it would be good to fix that. I may, quite likely, some of us will eventually get to that, but probably not within the next, let's say, quarter. So I'm also like raising this topic to get to evaluate interest if there are other community members who may be really interested in multi-arch and maybe assume Ironic cannot do that, but it actually can. But we need to figure out how to provide images. For example, we need different Ironic Python agent images per architecture, which Ironic supports, I think. Or it was identified recently as a gap in Ironic and we need to close that, but the community is aware.
Yep, I'm just typing them. So under V, you meant the MetaCube community, right?
Yeah, I should be more clear. Yeah, Metal3, we will have to figure out, not really figure out, just Ironic can accept, for example, several different iPXE images per architecture, different Ironic Python agent images per node. And we actually use that in BMO. We just need to develop the multi-arch story. We need to understand how it's going to work when there are different different IPA RAM disks per architecture. And we need some usable abstraction around architecture. But that's actually what my V1 Beta 1 spec is proposing. It's proposing introducing an architecture field on bare metal hosts. One of the things there.
And just for me to understand, so as in different architectures. So in this case, okay, I understand that Ironic supports itself, like it's Python, it can easily run on any architecture, and it supports, for example, ARM or something, or MIPS or something. But then would this mean that you also, so would it be like Ironic runs on some architecture and it can support an IPA for other architectures, so it can be a difference between the architecture of Ironic and the architecture of the IPA, or are they tied together?
They are not tied together, and that's actually what I would like to talk about, because right now you can run Intel on Intel, you can run ARM on ARM, even though we report Intel always. You cannot do right now. Ironic can do that, but we are not setting it up for doing that. Ironic can do Intel Ironic or Intel control plane deploying ARM nodes, for example, or even deploying different nodes, in which case it is the most problematic case because, for example, you need two different iPXE images. You need an iPXE image for Intel and you need an iPXE image for ARM. And you need to tell Ironic, okay, this is the image for Intel, this is the image for ARM. And you need to tell Ironic that this host is Intel, this host is ARM. And then we need different Ironic Python agent images, right? Because, okay, IP itself is Python, but the rest of operating system is not.
Yep. Yep, I get it. Have you, by the way, just I'm curious, in downstream or some test environment, have you already worked with use cases where your IPA would be ARM?
We have tested single architecture, which is not Intel. We tested ARM on ARM. And I think with live ISOflow, some of our folks actually tested mixed architecture, but not in the main deployment flow.
Interesting. Good. That sounds good. So on the meta cubed, and this would mean that somebody would need to, I mean, you proposed already the architecture field. Yeah, that's one thing, but what else would this require to be implemented on meta cubed, and like what would you need from the community?
Yeah, so the rough task list is to add architecture field, then update ironic image to support different IPXC images, several different IPXC images. And then we need to update upstream, that is Metal3 pre-provisioning image process, to take into account that maybe several deploy kernel. Because right now, if you remember, the default IPA image is passed as an environment variable to BMO. Just deploy kernel, deploy RAM disk.
Yep.
This has to be changed because there will be several of them per architecture, and this will need change to BMO. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, from our side, I only heard that there is some interest for ARM, but nothing concrete, nothing recent, and I don't know in like what sort of use case. So would it be edge? Would it be regular server? No idea. So from our side, I don't think we have anything. So I just can read that ESG have nothing against this. We have not really started doubling in multi-arch anything, as far as I know. So yeah, I think we support it, but Kashif or others, if you are here, back me up with this.
Yeah, I think this is anyhow. I'm not thinking about from downstream perspective, but I think I have heard people asking for ARM support at some point in the community, at least. So this would be really a good addition. So I'm in favor of having it, and nothing against it.
Yeah, and if you need any help with this, we can look into this, but yeah, basically that's all.
Yeah, I understand. But basically, the biggest help I need right now is to have this as a priority for me downstream. Then I can work on that, or one of us can work on that. And this is, as I said, in a bit weird spot where we know it's coming, but it's not a priority right this second. So I don't know when I'll be able to do that, but it's good that we have at least preliminary agreement.
Yep. One thing what I have to although mention here, but CI, which is not there for, and like how to say, like ESG has no or other than x86 64. So neither in our physical lab nor I think in our cloud provider, we don't have anything. So if I was thinking that maybe we could have with the CI, but can't really. At least.
Yeah, I'm afraid it's just like that. Yeah.
I mean,
I would be interested to at least join this venture at some point, like a low priority hobby thingy. So Dimitri, if you have something, you can tag me.
Yep. Thank you.
yeah. Now, if I think about it, I mean, with QEMU, everything is possible. So if we go that direction, that we got some working QEMU config from someone, that this should work. So, for example, a libvirt template.
Yeah, I think a good first start for anyway, even before we start talking about the full CI, is if you see x8664 hard coded somewhere, that's a place that needs fixing.
Okay. That's a good idea. I will highlight it because this is something that we can already think about. Do not hard code this. Good, thanks. Okay, is there anyone else who want to chime in related to this? If not, then there is the RAID. I don't think I ever done anything related to RAID, software RAID with MetaCube.
Yeah, it's a weird thing. So we theoretically support it, and somebody actually indicated that it does not work to the full extent, like something about device hints or something. And I guess the only thing I'm calling for right now is if you're here or listening to this recording, interested in software RAID, it's very, very close to working. We just need somebody testing it out, finding the rest of issues, helping us match them, and then we're gonna have software RAID, a pretty cool feature. I don't have priorities for that downstream, unfortunately. It's very, very far from me.
So basically, that person, who, if there would be a volunteer that should talk to you in the Ironic community, that's or.
Well, rather in MetaCube community, because the ironic side is done. Oh, we need to polish a few things in BMO.
Oh, cool. I will highlight this. Yeah, I have not heard from our end. As much I've seen, we mostly use hardware RAID.
You actually use hardware RAID?
From what I've seen, I think, I mean, at least the RAID cards, I have seen the RAID cards because we had some kernel module issue. And that is also the reason why we are using VVN numbers. I think.
See, because it would be interesting to collect statistics of how well it works for people.
Yeah, at least that's how I remember. But we have hardware RAID in some instances. But I don't know any statistics and I have no access to anything like that. So yeah. What's the next? Firmware upgrades. I only remember the NVIDIA talk about this in one of our
Yeah, they got
meetings.
interested. So NVIDIA got interested in that, and then I think they kind of stopped being interested, at least as far as I know. But now we are interested in firmware upgrades, as in OpenShift. So Yuri is looking at, in that. The priority for us is firmware upgrades out of band using Redfish. So there will be a design proposal in, what would you say, Yuri, a few weeks, a few months for a new API for that.
Hopefully, I would say.
You're very quiet. Please turn the volume up a bit.
Better now?
Yes.
Okay. The design, hopefully, like maximum a few weeks, I will be pushing at least initially. We have a code already in Ironic and it's under review. So I don't think a lot of changes will happen there, but if it does, I will be also updating in the proposal if necessary. If anyone is interested, like this is the spec that we had in Ironic that got merged. Let me copy the link.
Yeah, please do so.
That.
Yeah, that's very interesting. I mentioned this also to Furu administrators, and they actually there was a few folks who got quite happy when we mentioned that there is even just the BIOS update. I believe that we already have that's there, and we also talked about this in the KubeCon at the MetaCube booth, and people. So I were like opening and they've seen this as like something very cool if they can update firmware through this stack. So that would be cool if this matures and goes forward. Our team, I think we have not seen any request from our downstream, but as I said, on KubeCon, there were people who were interested.
That's good to know.
Yeah, just feel free to paste it here, the Ironic. I will just make a placeholder for that. And in general, what sort of firmware support will it be? Like,
so for Redfish, it's BIOS/system firmware and BMC firmware. That's the two types that will be supported. Then we are going to expand it and start looking into other cases, but these are the core ones we want to start with.
that's cool. And I was just wondering, so if now you are going into the direction of multi-arch and then firmware support, I guess this is a big utility on ARM, for example, when there are these ARM systems with many different different processors or controllers in one chip and many firmware. So was there any discussion that for this sort of use case of flashing different firmwares onto different controllers in this system on chips, or what sort of system firmware you mean?
There have been. So what I mean right now is more like classical, what used to be called BIOS firmware, but there's no more BIOS really. So the boot firmware, so to say, UEFI, all this, you know, that core firmware. I'm not sure what the correct term for that even is. ARM devices. In my world right now, these two topics are not connected. So firmware upgrades is one priority and ARM support is another. You are right in assuming that these things will eventually get connected in a very interesting way. And upstream in Ironic, I know Julia is driving some effort for managing, so to say, sub nodes. So when your node, which is a computer in Ironic term, has mini computers as part of that. Now, the elephant in the room is that BMC is a mini computer, but putting that aside, DPUs are essentially mini computers, maybe smart NICs and maybe just some, you know, I'm not even sure how many cases there are there, but essentially sub nodes, so nodes inside node, and this need firmware flashing. So there's a lot of interesting things in discussion in design phase right now, but I'm not at that point ready to make any commitments. While upgrading BIOS firmware and BMC firmware is something we definitely are interested right now, and we know is possible with Redfish.
I see. Yeah, I totally get it. Yeah, I remember the Ironic PTG discussion about the subnodes and DPUs, and yeah. Okay, great. I will just note it here that this is about EFI, not even UEFI. EFI and BIOS, and what, that was something else you mentioned. EFI, BIOS, and
BMC. So
BMC.
iDRAC, ILO.
Yeah, and BMC. Okay, great. That's good to know. I think we again have nothing against this. This is awesome. If this will be implemented, let's just check this. I think I won't go through this. This is quite long, but I will read it later if I have time. Yeah, thanks. That's great to learn about this. And then I think we come in here at this point. So ESG review, or not even ESG, like reviews from the community would be appreciated, and I can put it here that yeah. Okay. Is there anything else that I should add as a task for the community to do in relation to this firmware upgrades?
Not much. If anyone is interested, please reach out to Yuri or myself and let us know about your case, and especially if you, for example, want to upgrade something else other than UEFI or BMC, and you know how to do that. We'll be very happy to listen.
Did I wrote down your name correctly? Yes. Okay. Then is there any comment or anything else related to this from anyone? Okay, if not, then this is next thing is just something from me that I might have heard someone mentioning this.
Adam, sorry, may I interrupt you for a second, please?
Yep, sure.
What if we had maybe 10 minutes break? Because we have
Sure.
been talking for an hour and a half and I'm getting tired.
Yep, sure, sure. 10 minutes. Is it okay for everyone? Okay, then let's have 10 minutes.
Yes.
Yeah, see you in 34. Okay, can we continue or do you need a few more minutes?
I'm back. But we've lost a few people, so only 5 of us now.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we can continue and let's see. So, yeah, the next one was the ironic operator. That's just like a fleeting idea or floating an idea, but I think I heard it from multiple people. I think something similar I might even heard from you, Dimitri. Not sure. Could
Yeah,
be.
it's somewhere down this document, close
Yeah.
to the bottom.
Yeah. Conductor, where was this? Yeah, you called it MetaCube operator. I don't know if we should discuss it as part of that. I mean, I will just comment here that like, can I link to this or something? I mean, I'm not sure.
That's not a heading, so I'm afraid you cannot.
Yeah, I will just mention it here.
So TLDR, we have an operator in OpenShift. It's called cluster bare metal operator, which is a horribly confusing name with bare metal operator. But that's essentially the metal cube operator I'm describing. It starts metal cubed, it starts ironic, and starts a few auxiliary things like our pre-provisioning image controller, and maintains all that in an opinionated fashion, the way we want it in OpenShift. So I'm obviously all for that. I'm not sure how much of the CBO code we can reuse upstream because it's a tiny bit OpenShift specific in places. And there are also differences to how we do things upstream and downstream. Like, for example, upstream we have keep alive, the downstream we have a daemon set with HTTP proxy, which just proxies to the right ironic, which is easier if you have an operator maintaining a deployment because it can just reconfigure everything on fly. That can still be deployment options we can converge to around.
Yeah, yeah, go on.
I'm just not sure if we're ever gonna find time for so much effort, even though I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, my approach was coming from more of the ironic part. If not like as a meta cube operator, but just strictly for ironic, because ironic has so many options and ways, and you might deploy it in different configurations into the same control plane, even depending on what folks need in different namespaces and whatnot. So I was just thinking that it would automate just the ironic things. But I yeah, Hui, thanks for commenting that you used Helm. The thing is that we had this Helm discussion I think many times in the community, and for now it seems that we are not going into the direction of Helm. There are pretty strong opinions, and just introducing Helm for this one specific task of handling ironic, I would not really support. I find operator more elegant.
Yeah, I mean, of course, operator would be more native, or yeah, but I think Helm would be faster to develop. So yeah, if we don't have the time, then
guess it's less about what is faster to develop against and more about, does anyone have time either for Helm or for operator or for anything?
Yeah. The
Because for the
operator.
operator, I may find some time eventually, no promises, but maybe I find some time I just copy paste a lot of code from our OpenShift operator and just propose it upstream. For Helm, I have no idea how Helm works. I know it's about YAML, so I know writing a lot of YAML is all our job nowadays.
It's inside that ironic directory.
Yeah, here's the chart. I use Helm. I mentioned in community meetings and team meetings that I'm not against Helm. My issue is just that there are folks who had strong opinion against Helm, and also the fact that if it's introduced, for me, if Helm is introduced, it should be introduced everywhere, and it should be like, for me, like a chart like this would not cut it. It would be need to hosted and versioned in an OCI registry and hosted from there. Same way, part of the release as we release everything. So that has a huge overhead, and even though I like it, I actually like Helm, that would be quite, how to say, quite an additional cognitive load on the whole project, because anyone who would touch our things would need to learn Helm. And I have heard, it's again not me, but I've seen in the community and online that people are finding that customize is okay, but that Helm brings in too much added complexity for them. Not in a sense that they can't understand the YAML, but that Helm has its own workflow and rules and that you have to comply with and think about. So that's what I'm saying. If we bring in Helm, we should have Helm everywhere. And as you mentioned, the operator is a more native thing, but I also agree that that's a bigger work also. Like that's kind like that's a huge work. Of course, if we can steal some from or get some code from OpenShift, that's fine. But I'm not even sure at the moment that how much we would resemble the OpenShift operator, or so this is a big topic. I don't know, but one thing that I guess all of us feel is that the current way of deploying Ironic is a bit how to say, like all over the place, or at least not easy to understand for newcomers, because there are no cloud native, like there are no CR, there are nothing. It's just running behind the curtains, and sometimes you just have to edit some environment variable and then it does something differently. Yeah,
I can carry that.
Yeah, in case of these bigger things, I'm not sure how we should tackle this, like how should these be managed, because if I make an issue like I cannot even make an issue about this is its own like story, this whole topic.
Yeah, I don't know. We sometimes have some spare time here in Red Hat to work on things. So when the next time I get some spare time, I may just do it. Just try to approach the Ironic operator, maybe really not the whole Metal3 operator, just something for Ironic. And maybe it's going to be even useful outside of Metal3. I actually need to take a look. So in Red Hat, we have also Red Hat OpenStack, which is also deployed on OpenShift. And they also have Ironic because, well, OpenStack has Ironic. So they have some sort of Ironic operator there as well. and I can try taking a look at that and seeing it. It's probably specific to Red Hat OpenStack, but maybe there are some ideas we can take from there.
Yeah. Agree. There is no action to be taken, but I will just write down that.
So a question, if we end up having this ironic operator, are we going to remove the current customize based approach, or are we going to have both? And which one are we going to use in the CI?
Well, customize is there for everything YAML in Kubernetes. So I guess there might be some level of customize anyways, just to deploy. I'm not sure, just to scale maybe, but not sure. Depends how much we have to template the for example, the custom resources that we would deploy. That's what I can think, because if we would end up with an operator and so many test cases that we would deploy, I don't know, 5 different versions of of one CR, then we might need customize just to scale. But not, I would guess that not in the, like the amount of customize would be less, because you would have custom resources that can handle a lot of things.
In that case, I would actually prefer Helm, because then you don't have to use customize anymore. Because I find this customized system quite overcomplicated in some sense. Like you cannot compile it in your head. It's just always like messy.
Yeah, I
So
see.
if we can make Ionic operator, I would vote to just use it without any customize. Otherwise, I would vote for Helm.
Okay, I can see your point. Yeah, sadly today that there are no folks who are more pro customize, or not that many of them. So yeah, I would guess if we write the CRs in a way that and then the tests in a way that we would not need to really template it, we can just have, like, how to say, like explicit examples of use cases and explicit CRs, or we put some sort of templating mechanism into our CRs, like we have right now in the kubeadm scripts, that we can do a certain level of templating, although that's coming from cloud init, but still. Yeah, I would guess it depends on us, Dimitri, how we implement it. I can't promise that we would get rid of customize completely.
Yeah, I'm personally not suggesting we get rid of customize completely. I guess my question is a bit, I have a bit different question. So do we keep the bits in our customized scripts that install ironic, or do we replace them with the operator completely?
I would go for replacing it completely. So my idea was that basically you install the operator as you would install any other operator in the use case that we support, and then just deploy the custom resources that are like you read by the or handled by the operator. I would like to simplify it as much as possible. So
right, makes sense to me.
Yeah, so if we would like rank the Helm, the customize, and just plain apply this YAML file approaches, I'm always Like I like the most the plain YAML when I can just apply a resource and it's there. I'm not fan of any of this templating compared to like the simple manifests. Yeah, I would just write here that
Yeah, I think customize a K, not a C.
oh yeah, sorry. Yeah, I agree with you. I never designed an operator and I cannot add much more. Yeah, well, we will see, because probably I get some feedback from the folks who are not here today also, and maybe even you get some feedback from those people, because this both the customized Helm topic is a bit messy, and also this sort of do we need a new operator or not? People might have different opinions. Yeah. Is there anything else that we can add to this, or add some concrete action, some explicit thing that we can do already? No? Okay. And then yeah, the last thing that was again just something from me. You already mentioned that you use it differently than in the upstream. We actually had not problems, but it's a limitation how the keep alive is used at the moment in the upstream. And it would be way better if the ironic would be detached from the host namespace. I know for Pixie booting, this is a bit weird. I'm not sure how can we do Pixie if we are not attached to the host network.
And not only that, so Pixie is a problem for sure. Like DNS mask has to stay on the host network.
Yeah.
I don't see ways around to pass DHCP traffic. But it's not just that. So when the node boots, the host boots, it has to reach back to Ironic API. and it has to reach back to HTTPD to fetch the image, and maybe replaced by OCI in this case. But right now, as it stands right now, it has to reach to HTTPD to get the cached image, and it has to do all this without having access to Kubernetes networking, like virtual networking.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean the HTTPD stuff. That's like if we can make some sort of ingress that allows it to reach an endpoint in the cluster, then it can download it. But the DNS mask stuff, that I have no idea. Like, how can that be managed if not connected to the host network? I mean the HTTPD, we already had some brainstorming for that, and with like if I remember, that was a sort of ingress controller that was proposed to manage that, and also to manage the access to the API endpoint. But we got stuck on the DNS mask.
There's a thing about ingress. I'm not sure if it's OpenShift problem, so it applies to Kubernetes, but at least when I was researching this idea in OpenShift, people told me that the problem is that ingress controller is running on workers as a normal workload, which gives you a chicken and egg problem with deploying these workers. Is it always the case, or is it just our problem? Do you know?
I think it's just my memory. I used it very long time ago, but I think on Kubernetes you can make it run on the control plane also. It's not tied to the workers. I mean, like we have the Bootstrap cluster that bootstraps a control plane, so we can run it on that. Then we bootstrap the target cluster with its control plane and workers. And I think even after we shift like pivot, even after that we can maintain that this ingresses and the ironic are only on the control planes. So I don't think that there should be any issue.
Yeah, I see. Yeah, that's probably then specific the way we set up an OpenShift, because I know as an OpenShift, if you deploy workers, masters are not schedulable. But that's artificial limitation, all right? That doesn't have to be that way. And we never deploy workers together with masters, so it's another problem. But yeah, okay, ignore me. Maybe it's not an issue. And DNS mask, we just have to live with it, really. I can't see a way to avoid that.
That's sad. I will write it down, because this has been for the access to the host network. There were multiple pressures even downstream, and inside the team and so on. So it's a bit of a headache for everyone because this might get involved in very secure environments. So
I have an answer for that. Very secure environments should be using virtual media and not using provisioning network.
Yeah.
And actually, in our operator, we have downstream, you can disable provisioning network, and it will disable DNS mask, and you end up with only virtual media supported. We can implement that in the future ironic operator if we ever get to writing it.
Yeah. Okay. What was this last thing that you mentioned? My line was a bit breaking up. If we get to the operator, what can we implement?
Also, what we do downstream, we have an option whether you have provisioning network enabled or not. And if you put it disabled, Ironic works without provisioning network, and DNS mask is not started at all. And you can only use virtual media in this case, but our security conscious customers use that from time to time.
Nice. Nice. Okay, that's good. It was just like something that came to my mind because in the past we were looking into this, but had the same results. Okay, thanks for clarifying that. Okay, so we had this many stuff. We have results. Related to the results, there are what concrete things that I have to make a wish list. The root device hint operator is completely frozen. We are not really interested, none of us. There should be a feature proposal to reuse the network data. There were no objections, and this is something that could come handy for all of us. And then there was the basic auto IPA. Then we have to delegate someone if we want to do it quickly. And it seems to be a small change to IPA. OCI support, again, we would need to delegate someone, but there are, from your side who were here, were no objections to this, and we have to touch both Ironic and IPA. Multi-arch, that's coming from OpenShift community. That sounds good. From our side, we will just keep an eye out for the x86-64 stuff and think about that. Yeah, firmware upgrades, then if there will be a proposal and I don't miss it, then I will ask folks to review it, and please all of you do so also. And then the Ironic operator, this is something that seems to be a big topic, but you might bite into it in the coming 3 weeks or after that at some point. Yeah. Okay, is there anything else that we should discuss related to this topic? For me, it's clear. Okay. Then the next thing would be the non-K8s based lifecycle management. That was something coming from a community member, and we have actually started to even review this, and it ended up to be still a little bit, if I understand correctly.
We had some argument about namings because there was at least at some point there were a bit unfortunate naming, like there was Metal3 host or Metal3 bare metal host, which was different from bare metal host. And yeah, I see you commented also on some logic separation.
Yeah. And it entered stale, and is it stale? No, it's not. I probably removed it. I don't really see much more push from the original reporter. And the last comment was that it will be refined. Okay, but it has not been yet. I'm just like, I'm not sure that should we push it and the full, like the person who is writing it is still there, or did this person go away? And I'm not sure what's going on with this one. But I think it's quite a simple concept. So basically there would be an operator that's using the BMO, and you could be able to specify the data template metadata, like the data template containing user data, metadata, network data, and then we would provision the same way, but we wouldn't have kubeadm operator and bootstrap operator and others. We would basically just run at the end a cloud init script that puts things into place, and that's it. And this Metal3 host deployment and Metal3 hosts would be the resources that are tracking the physical servers, and the highest level of clustering is this host deployment. So that would how to say, like hold a set of hosts, and that's it. I mean, in principle, I am completely fine with this. We might even have something coming from our downstream that requires non-K8s based how to say, like workload management, where this could fit very nicely. But for some reason, most folks had no interest in this other than two of us who are looking into this.
Yeah, I still have problems with the naming in this proposal, because I really don't like having bare metal host and Metal3 host as two completely different resources.
Mhm.
I understand we have to use Metal3 prefix for Metal3 machine because there's already another machine, but here I think it's going to be a source of confusion. And I think we should maybe skip the Metal3 prefix for everything that is not designed to interact with cluster API. And we can continue this discussion in the spec probably because the person is not here.
Yeah, I was just wondering that should we write another spec based on this, like someone else, like me or you, or someone from our team or your team, and then propose it and link it here, or as like a counter offer, or should we just line by line modify things here? I'm not sure what is the better approach.
I would start with having proposals, maybe even line by line, just, let's change this, let's change that with explanations, because otherwise the person may find it hostile if we just take over, essentially write our own version. Not all people take it easy.
I see.
If the person goes silent, for example, because they're tired of waiting, after some time we can of course take it over. I cannot promise to do that because that's not on my radar as well. I think it's a good idea for the sake of Metal3 community as an upstream project, but I have no use for that downstream.
Okay, let me just write this down. Yeah, I think that's all that we can do. And there's not much to add. I mean, the concept itself is fine. It's just the API representation that I guess is a bit tricky. That do we argue on names and scopes of things? Is there anything else that you might want to add, any of you? I just thought here that I think we can skip it because there's not much to discuss about this, because there's no, like, you had the issue with the naming, but I had in general no issue. I had one question related to the, like, how the data templates and yeah, the data templates is not reused, but then the explanation was quite right that those custom resources are tied to the CapM3. So yeah, I get why those have to be basically remade. Okay, then the last one is tilt. Well, the next one, but this is something that I'm not using. Actually, I'm not using tilt.
Yeah, there was a actually already work has been started by me. Then like Kashif took over. So yeah. So it's ongoing actually. So they like. So we try to match up with like capabilities of the copy tilt on our side. So it's very useful for the development. Yeah.
Okay, I will just write down the comments. I mean, I have nothing against this, and I think no one. I mean, it's basically just a IDE at the end of the day. So if you use it and that's just, this is my opinion. If you use it for development, that you want to make it nicer for everyone, it's fine. Why is it? It's weird. Can you share here a few links for folks who might be interested, Sunat?
Sure, I will do that. Like I'm not sure if Kashif has pushed anything yet.
Yeah, if not,
Yeah.
then yeah, if not, then no worries. Just if you might have something. Yep, I think that's fine. We can go forward. Or did you have any questions or anything related to this that you wanted to ask from the community?
No, not really, actually.
Okay.
Mm.
Yeah, and then the next one is the reducing the amount of bash in our images. I agree.
Yeah, if we ever get to writing an ironic operator, that actually may come for free. So we may start removing things from bash and moving them to the operator.
Yeah, I feel the same way about the Ansible in the devenv. So yeah, like that I already mentioned a few times that at least the tests, not the provisioning, but just the tests that we have now the CI can work. And actually these are not even really used that much now in the CI. So those could go away also. I just want to add here that Yeah, but that would be a different topic, and I have not created, but I might add it for the next occasion to talk a bit about the test part of our devenv. Because if I remember correctly, right, Dimitri, you are not using it in the Ironic community. You just bootstrap the environment with the devenv, and you have your own tests.
Yeah, we are facing pretty severe resource constraints, so we cannot run end-to-end tests. We just get it to deploy one master, and basically it's done. That's all we can afford right now.
Yeah, I will just write it here. Just to not forget, because we don't have a, I will move it into that topic if I ever make it, but yeah, but bash, so inspector removal may help, and yeah, you wrote that if we ever make the operator, that could help. Yeah, I agree. I mean, really, if move anything to operator or into ironic / IPA, that always helps this issue. I think devenv is the biggest Oh, but it's about the images. Okay, I won't put the devenv here. Just the images. Yeah, I think we all agree. Is there some specific action that you think we can already make, Dimitri, or anyone else? Some space where you see that the bash is already not necessary?
So of things that I actually have on my radar, I think inspector removal is the first thing. But there is quite some work upstream required until we get feature parity between the implementation inside Ironic and what we use in Ironic Inspector. So not from my side, unfortunately, not in the very, very near future.
Yeah, image-wise, I don't think we have anything either. The devenv there might be optimization for the bash and removal of Ansible and bash that might be embedded into the Ansible and stuff like that, and then because of like fixes and optimizations of the CI, there we might lose a lot of bash code that was used for CI things. So there we might lose a lot of bash, but not in the images really. I can't think of anything that was discussed recently. Anyone else? Anything? Okay. And then there is the stabilizing the APIs. I'm just wondering that there's only 4 of us left.
Yeah, I was about to bring up this.
Yeah, and these were quite the lemonade topics, these last 2. But stabilizing the APIs might be to interest to a lot of folks, Leonard, Kashif, Tuomo, and maybe others. They surely would be interested.
But it's actually superseded by my V1 beta 1 spec, so we can just continue there. Really mark this at, just go look at the design spec and discuss there.
This is that pool, right?
Yeah, I think that's it.
Okay, and then should we then continue, or what's your opinion? I can go ahead, but okay, these are again like multi-conductor. For that we might have
Yeah, we can go touch each topic real quick and just see if we can have any quick discussion, but yeah, we don't have a quorum. So network device management, it would be interesting to discuss that between communities, because that's something that's permanently of interest in Ironic upstream and here. So there definitely should be space for collaboration. It would be a bit sad if we implement something in Metal3, which Ironic community was then re-implement again.
Yeah, I agree.
So when we get this wish list document, Etherpad, we can throw that there. So we would be curious to see some standalone network device management. So when you compose this document, maybe you could write a few lines.
Sure. This has to be in the wish list. I don't think there is anyone from our team who, other than me, who got interested in this. On KubeCon, there was interest on, and this is actually something that's kind of I don't know how you call it correctly, but a feature that would bring in folks, because I don't think anyone else even offers this for bare metal. So that would be, I think, a great feature. If anything, even if we would be able to just provide monitoring for via SNMP. I'm not an expert. I watched a few videos about SNMP. I'm not sure what's the extent of the protocol. How much like interactive stuff you can do with it, how much configuration versus how much just monitoring you can do, but I guess that's device specific.
Yeah, so what our folks were using was not SNMP. So there's some other protocol, and I cannot for the life of me remember the name. But so we have people in Red Hat who know this topic, and I'm not one of them. They work for Red Hat OpenStack, and we can, if you ever get serious, if you ever become serious to research this topic, I can connect the people with the people. So the thing was called OpenConfig apparently.
Oh, I was muted, sorry. So yep, this OpenConfig sounds great, and I think I will look into this, but there's no pressure from any direction towards this topic, I think, because no one is offering this. So yeah, and I think we can go to the next topic. And this is the multi-conductor, and I'm not working with this currently. I was in the meeting, you probably noticed, but I have very little idea about this. So I guess Hui, you are the one who have questions and can discuss this with Dimitri.
Yeah, so Dimitri, you mentioned here that you have some ideas on to work around the DNS mask limitation. So does it mean with that we can have multiple inspector, right?
No, I wrote this down before we discuss. So for those watching the recording, we had a few private meetings with folks. So we have essentially a small working group around multi-conductor for Metal3. So and myself are part of that, for example. And we've discussed a few times. And so the issue is Ironic Inspector is that Ironic Inspector is not HA ready. The good thing about Ironic Inspector is that it's going away. So when I finish this merging work, they'll build Ironic, and Ironic is HA ready. The thing we discussed last time in the private meeting was essentially we can scale out Ironic. We can have an Ironic pair control plane node. That's easy. We cannot do that with DNS mask for more or less principal reasons. Several DHCPs on the same network is a recipe for problems. We cannot do it in Inspector because of Inspector limitations. So the last thing I think we discussed was deploying DNS mask and Inspector in active passive fashion, so only on one control plane node, and deploying several Ironics, all pointing to this Inspector, and make this Inspector just point to random Ironic because you can access API at any Ironic, and we will access API for the whole cluster, essentially, because Ironic is clustered. Is it a useful summary of what we discussed?
Yeah, I think so.
And again, if you ever write Ironic operator, we are going to make this feature available there.
Yeah, I already actually did that in the commit I posted earlier. So yeah, I basically separate them by Helm, but of course it can be done with anything else.
Yeah, I personally don't have any objections to Helm in particular, but yeah, for me, downstream an operator, an upstream operator will be helpful because then I can rebase our downstream operator on top of the upstream operator and reduce the amount of code I'm maintaining purely downstream.
Let me just quickly get the link and oh, where was that?
I think you have it in the second tab from the last.
Second. No, it's the UX and then.
No, the tab, the Firefox tabs that on top of your screen. Second from the last one.
Second from the last one.
No,
then first. Yeah. Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Let's just link it here. This is a good POC. Yeah, I think that is already something on the way, and there is substantial interest in it, and who is already doing proof of concept with this. Yeah, just write down that the ironic operator would be useful for this sort of use cases. What can be done in other ways also. And so in the working group, after we had the discussion and we did the POC, so where are we at the moment? So what's the expected outcome that, let's say, okay, who emerges the POC, and are you guys discussed? I was not following, I was fixing CI, but have you discussed that? Will we document it as part of the guide that how to do it, or will this be somehow automated or deployable, or what's the aim?
In my view, we need this, yeah, of course, documented like everything else, but we also need it deployable through standard means. So if that's customized right now, it has to be in customize. If we change customize to Helm, it can be Helm. But I would not like this to be a side project that people have to discover to use. I think it has to be like a primary feature of Metal3.
Okay, I will highlight this because this is actually something that's now opinionated and might be controversial topic in the community, because we had internal discussions, and I think that was also discussed in the community meetings, that the Helm was not the majority didn't support the Helm. Then now we have a POC for a feature or kind of a use case that only exists in Helm. And then I agree with you that this should be a primary feature of Metal3, because it's like a natural progression of the deployments. It's just a scaled up version of the Metal3. It's necessary to go to operate at that scale. So now that's actually a good question, and I think this is even a community meeting topic, or could be a topic for multiple meetings, and not just in the working group.
Yeah, I agree. Maybe we should start just making these discussions public now that we get some
Yeah.
progress. Maybe we should dedicate, I don't know, 15 minutes every meeting, up to 15 minutes to discuss this work.
Yeah, I agree. That's a good idea. That should be like 10-15 minutes or however long update from the working group. This is actually some tradition that we can bring in, that if there are working groups who are starting to reach results, they should make it public in the community meeting. That's good. I like it. I will see to it that we start doing this. Good. Okay. So this will be continuously discussed and everyone will be kept up to date. That's a good action point. And congratulations, Hui, that you managed to do it. I think you managed to do it yesterday or today. It was some recently.
Yeah, it was the Friday, I guess. But there's still some issue with the lock note. I guess I hope I can figure it out soon.
That sounds great. Okay, is there anything else you want to discuss related to this? Okay, if not, the next is the style guide for languages. I think we need style guides because now it's basically not regulated. At least some sort of general framework. Of course, we have a bunch of scanners or static code analyzers, but I see that folks get into arguments even after every static code analyzer has agreed that it's fine. There are still many things that they are not checking in general. So I think we would need them. I guess that their place would be in the docs, in the user guide. I think this should be part of
Contributor guides, if you have one.
Yeah, we don't have it, and I think in the user guides should have a contributor section. So
well, users are not contributors.
okay.
I mean, it's great when they are, but normally they are not. Anyway, that's a minor thing. We can just don't need to spend time now. I'm actually wondering if we can reasonably discuss it without Tuomo, who's apparently the most opinionated about this.
Yeah, I think he's always up to like a discussion related to this, and I think he really wants to see this. He was interested also, you can see. Yeah. Yep.
Do you know if Tuomo will come to the meeting on Wednesday?
I don't know, but tomorrow I can ask him if I don't forget. If you ping me to.
It's a small topic. We can just move it to the next meeting if he's going to be present.
Yeah, well, then let's say that I will keep this as a there on the community. Yeah, I will keep it in the reminder as other long-running stuff, and then you can discuss it there. Would that be fine?
Yep.
Yep. Okay, cool. And then the next one is pre-provisioning configuration support.
We've discussed it, right?
Yeah, we discussed this, and this I just write down that this was part of what is this? Part of this. Okay, next one is like the decomposition of the BMO API for multi-tenancy. This would require more folks.
Yep, and that requires someone actually ready to work on this, because we can discuss it as long as you want, but it's a lot of work and it's not something I can do in my spare time for sure.
Yeah. This would.
Although some inspiration from this document can be taken for the Metal3 host work we discussed above. So at least there are some naming proposals there. So I linked actually this document in the review, the design review.
And so it has certain points. which was that? Yeah.
This one, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I don't want to go into this. Yeah, this would require all of our folks who we can gather, who are working with us, and then that we have. I think that's not cross team, but we have two folks, two person who may be working on. Mohammed surely worked on multi-tenancy related books. But at least we would need him, Leonard, Kashif, yeah, most of our team to come to some conclusion. Certainly not me, related to multi-tenancy. These could be what I can write that. Do I know correctly that there's no working group related to this, right?
I'm not aware of one.
Yeah, we bring this up today that we might need similarly as for the ironic scalability. Good. Then the last thing that was plus one is pinning the dependencies. It's already happening.
Yeah, I feel like we discussed it last time.
Yeah. Yeah, and
without Tuomo and Ricardo, it's pointless to discuss it,
yeah.
I think.
I think we can stop here and say that like the next topics either didn't get enough traction or we would need other folks. Now we have a few minutes, and last time we decided on Wednesday that when should we have the next community meeting. What is your opinion? And I will ask this on Wednesday anyways, but should we have a continuation of the meetup or we have basically go to every topic that was interested to anyone else? Basically, my question is that should we go on to discussing those topics that were not plus one or have not received plus ones?
I'm not convinced. I think we should take a break and let people, do the follow-ups. Let's have all the discussions we plan to have. Let's finish things we wanted to finish, and maybe chat again in a couple of months, maybe not, early autumn, and see if people still want to bring these topics. And in any case, whenever the next meeting happens, I would rather prefer us to start from a clean document and let people repopulate it, even if just copy paste things, rather than just assume that the topics we have here are the top topics that interest people and not something, for example, new.
Yeah. I completely agree. And I think that even if we just look at what we have already collected, just the few action points that we wrote up, that's already quite a lot of things. Like even if we just look what we have managed to collect, implementing that and managing that is already, I think, many months of work by the time we would, even if we would start right now, that would be quite a lot of effort to address everything that we already collected.
This is absolutely true, yes.
So yeah, I agree with you that I think we actually completed or like fulfilled the goal of this meeting, because we have concrete decisions and action points, and then we have quite a lot of those, so we can start making issues and other stuff out of these. And I think we already spent almost 6 hours on these topics, so folks need to work on these, not just discuss them. Yeah,
That's true. Yeah, I would like to say a few things first. I would like to say thank you very much, Adam, for driving all this. There has been heroic effort. I've done this in the past. I know how hard it actually is to drive so much time the meeting. So thank you.
thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Adam.
And I also want to say that I personally found these meetings very useful, not just to discuss specific things, but to get a feel of reconnecting with you guys, with other members of the community who are not part of the Red Hat team. Because sometimes I felt we are working a bit in isolation, and now I have a much stronger feeling that we're working as one team and one community. So thank you for that, the three of you, and whoever participated in the past and whoever is going to be listening to this recording, and I hope some people will.
Yeah, thank you for the kind words, and I really just want to reiterate that I hope it will help folks to get a sense of the fact that we are working for a common goal and in a common, like in a community, and really we have an interest in making this successful. Yeah, and thank you for everyone who has participated today and the last event also. Is there anything else any one of you want to say? Okay, if not, then thanks once more, and let's hear and see each other on Wednesday on the community meeting, and have a nice rest of the day.
Yep, talk to you on Wednesday.
Yeah.
Bye.
Thank you.
Have a nice
Thank you.
evening. Bye bye.
You too. Bye bye.